Our guest this morning is Jon Comstock, candidate for the State House District 96 in Arkansas. Good morning, Jon.
Good morning, Colonel.
Hey, good to have you in here this morning, and I want to jump right into our conversation here this morning by pointing out that the last day that people have to register for the November 3rd election is October 5th, and early voting will start October 19th, so people need to kind of mark that on their calendars and keep that in mind.
I hope they do, and I really try to tell people that if you're concerned about the COVID virus, which I think most of us are, that early voting is really a real option. My family goes every year, and consistently we find that there's not lines that you have to wait through. So I would suggest that, or as I hope everybody knows, our Secretary of State and our Governor have given the green light to absentee balloting. All a person has to do is check the box that says they're unavoidable, and the Secretary of State and Governor have both agreed that unavoidable means I don't feel comfortable going to vote at a poll, and if I don't, I can send in an absentee ballot.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to point out, now most people know this, but some people might be confused that there is a difference between early voting and absentee ballots.
Absolutely. I mean, early voting is you're actually voting the same ballot as you go to the polling place to vote. Absentee ballot is you apply either in person. You can actually go to the county clerk's office, or you can apply online, and they will mail you an application form that has to be completed. It's a fairly straightforward form, 4, 5, 6 questions that have to be answered. You mail that back to the county clerk, and then they will mail you an envelope with a ballot envelope in it and a ballot for you to mark and send back.
And I think you're getting some good support in your campaign. Jon, I saw a Republican pick up one of your signs that he was going to put out in his yard, and I know you appreciate anybody that's eligible to vote to help you out.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm a Democrat running in Benton County, so you know I need every vote I can get. I ran into somebody yesterday. Well, I will tell you this. I got interviewed by the State Chamber of Commerce, and by the time we were finished, the gentleman said, well, you sound like a Republican. Yeah. And I said, well, I sound like a Republican when it comes to monetary issues, values, conservative values. Of course, I was stressing the point to him, and maybe we can get into this, Colonel, it's up to you, but I was stressing the point that I don't think it's a conservative value to misrepresent to the people what an issue is about. So even if I feel like we need money for roads and highways and bridges, which I do feel like we need that, I do have some reservations about issue 1, and if you want, we can discuss that.
Yeah, I hope that our listeners, the broad spectrum of our listeners out here, will consider your background and your attitude and your energy of serving the people. I hope that they'll consider that on the election and not just look at Democrat versus Republican or something like that. But let's go back to your time as a circuit court judge for Benton County. You managed a civil and felony criminal docket. Tell about that.
Yes, I did, and it was really one of it's the single greatest honor I've had up to this point in my life, and I hoped to even take that a step up by serving in the House of Representatives. But I was a circuit judge during 2011 and all of 2012. I got appointed by the governor because a judge retired early, and I had a civil and felony docket. And I will say this, I tell people all the time, we need to do a lot of different things with our criminal justice practices in Arkansas. And I had been an in-house attorney at Walmart for a number of years. And when I became a judge, some people thought, well, how is this corporate attorney going to step into a felony criminal docket? And I'll tell you, folks, the reason I was able to do it, we haven't changed. We're doing things today the same way we were when I was in law school. Mm-hmm. And that's not a good thing. In my mind, the criminal justice system has not improved with age. It has not gotten more efficient. It has not gotten less expensive. I do about 30 hours plus a week pro bono work for folks that have serious legal issues that they need help on, but they can't afford an attorney. Right. They go talk to an attorney, and these attorneys, and I'm not bad-mouthing them, but they want $1,500, $2,500 retainer. Folks out here working jobs hour to hour don't have it.
They just don't have it. I happen to believe that that when you formed your own small business, and I think the name of this Comstock Conflict Resolution Service, that pretty well spotlights some of your attitude, because you're a mediator.
I'm a mediator. That's what I do to earn money. Comstock Conflict Resolution Services, lawyers and their clients, parties in Benton County and Washington County, hire me routinely to help them settle disputes. And what I really like about it, KURM, is because the skill and the experience that I bring to that effort is I'm willing to hear people with all various kinds of views. I don't criticize people for thinking differently from one side to the other. I help identify who are the stakeholders, and I help dig down into the information and try to find, a mutual path to a resolution of a dispute. I want to take that very same skill to the legislature. And on your point earlier, I would just say to folks, listen, if you're ever going to, you may say to yourself, well, I'm a Republican, I don't vote for a Democrat, but I would consider it. Please consider it right now, House District 96. I grew up hearing people say, and I always thought it was neat to hear them say, I vote for the person, not the party. And I don't hear that nearly as much anymore. And I think we should say it because it does make a difference. Who do you put in that House of Representatives seat?
Yeah, one of the main missions that I have here this morning is to convey to people that you've got an unusual background. You have a background of service. You are out front there with people, helping people, standing up for people, and therefore certainly worthy of everybody's consideration on this November 3rd election. Now, your background, I think, is even enhanced by the fact that the University of Arkansas School of Law hired you for the last several years to teach.
Yes, I teach conflict resolution, or have. Last spring was the last semester that I taught, but I had taught for several years in a row, both the spring and the fall semester, usually 2 courses a semester dealing with conflict resolution. Absolutely, I want to bring that same skill to the legislature. I really think that I am especially suited, not just because I have done the conflict resolution, but because I am motivated to be an advocate for others. That's what I have done historically in my life. That's what I'm doing now, both with the mediation and with the pro bono work that I do. And here's something. Most people ask me, well, what laws do you want to pass when you get to the legislature? And folks, I want to say this. I'm not going there. Yes, oh sure, all of us could come up with a half a dozen laws that we like. I could mention 1 or 2. But that's not my primary focus. My primary focus is I want to be an advocate for the people in House District 96. I want to be the best legislator they've ever had. I want them to know who I am. Most people don't even know who their legislator is. I want them to know me because if they have any issues dealing with state agencies or government, I want them to say, Jon Comstock is our go-to person to help advocate for us. Now, folks, I may not be able to achieve everything you want, Colonel, as you know, but you're going to know that I was a voice for you.
Well, here's my point. For a guy like yourself, we're talking to Jon Comstock this morning, who actually serves the public in pro bono work for several hours a week. He's the kind of guy that I believe that you could call on when he's in the legislature, and he's going to represent you, and he's going to give you an answer. He's going to talk to you, and he's going to be available.
Hey, I'm going to return your phone call. I'm going to return your email. I only have one email. I only have one phone number. It'll be the same one that I have when I go to the legislature. Of course, I guess the Arkansas legislature does give you a separate email address that you can use. But yes, absolutely, I'm going to be available. And listen, I'm going to have to be educated too. I don't know all the issues, but I was 18 years at Walmart as an attorney, and one of the things that I loved about that experience was every day was a learning experience. And who do you learn from? The people that are down in the trenches dealing with the issues. It'll be the same thing when I'm in the legislature. You folks out in House District 96, whatever the issue is, I'm willing to learn and to be educated as to what is it that you need from a state agency.
One of the things that I believe you've said recently is that a medical expense deduction would be something that would bring immediate relief to many families in District 96.
Absolutely. I mean, right now, most people can't claim medical expenses because you have to get such a big dollar threshold before the federal government gives you that deduction. Well, we always say we want to help working people. We in Arkansas legislature could say, let's give you a dollar for dollar deduction right now based on out-of-pocket expenses, prescription expenses, whatever your medical is. That self-care and care for your family is such a significant thing that as a group here in the state of Arkansas, we could say, let's give each other a break on any medical care expenses.
I believe you've said that your hope would be to introduce a bill which you hope would get bipartisan support, which would tell you to keep track of all of your out-of-pocket medical health expenses, co-pays, etc.
Absolutely, and get a deduction. And why wouldn't it be bipartisan support? I think right now what has happened is, at least to my knowledge, nobody's introduced such a bill. That to me seems like a simple, straightforward way to give people, everybody, immediate relief.
Now, a lot of people are concerned about taxes on cars, and what's your thought on that?
Hey, listen, I am the proud owner of a 2012 Ford F-150 that I just recently bought, and I negotiated hard on the price, and I saved the money to pay for the car. I wanted to pay for it, and I saved for that. But you know what hit me between the eyes is when I go down to that tax office, and I have to pay that lump sum sales tax. Why can't we pay that out over time? They know who we are. We're given months to pay our real estate taxes every year. There ought to be a process that allows us to pay that tax, that sales tax, in incremental payments on a monthly basis. There's a lot of folks that want to upgrade the vehicle that they have, and they can afford that monthly payment, they can afford that down payment, but they just can't get over that hurdle of that lump sum sales tax. And people do a lot of I found this out as I was negotiating and trying to buy vehicles. People are always negotiating back and forth on what's the price break that I have to get to avoid that tax. Yeah. It's such a burden for people. So to me, again, another bipartisan bill that I think would easily go through the legislature and give people real relief. Another option would be even to say, well, let's raise the price on which the sales tax is even assessed, and that is another option. But to me, immediately letting you pay it out over time is relief that's meaningful.
Now, one area, speaking of car taxes, is the area of use tax on used cars, and we've had some modification on that as far as when a tax kicks in, but we've got to agree that that's the second time that we've collected a tax on a car.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing I don't understand about people that will insist that they're conservative fiscally, and yet they allow this process to remain in place. So as a legislator, I would just want to do things. I would want to, every single law that would come to me for review, I would be asking the question, what is the actual impact, particularly financial impact, on Arkansas families, hardworking families, and folks, particularly people working by the hour? It's not that businesses and business owners don't need help and protection. They do. Excuse me. But the wage earner out there doesn't have somebody advocating for them and lobbyists day in and day out. I want to be sure that I have that group of people in my sights as I assess each piece of legislation.
You know, what I'm hearing you say, John, is that you're a guy that's going to be sensitive to the needs of families in this 96th district, and you're going to be an individual that can relate to the problems that every household is having out here.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, I grew up in very humble times. I came from a large family. We just had a single parent in our household. All of my brothers and sisters have all done wonderful things with their lives, been able to provide for their families. I know that's what people want to do, is to provide for their families. And I will look at legislation from the standpoint of, are we doing anything that's hurting a family, hardworking Arkansans?
Right. John, this coronavirus has affected the way campaigning takes place. With that in mind now, between now and the election day. If people want to know a little bit more about Jon Comstock, what do you suggest they do?
Well, they can call me, certainly, 479-659-1767. And they can go to my website, JonComstockForArkansas.com, or my business website, which is just JonComstock.com. But any one of those, they could reach out to me. And number one, hey, I need their support. So if anybody can provide financial support, that's wonderful. But if you want to work on a campaign, that would be appreciated. But with the COVID virus, I certainly understand, Colonel, that like we've not been knocking on doors.
Right.
And we're not going to do that because I believe that there is too much concern about what that,
Right.
If I'm knocking on a door, that means I'm meeting a person every single time I'm knocking on a door. And that next person is going to be concerned about, well, whose door did you just knock on, or who did you
Right,
just talk
sure.
to? So we are going to do radio. We are going to do signs and mailers and dropping things off with folks.
If people want a sign, they want to put a Jon Comstock sign in their yard, those are available, I guess.
Absolutely. And my office is 206 South 2nd Street in downtown Rogers, Suite C, and I got a bunch of them there and glad to hand them out.
Okay, 206
South 2nd Street.
South 2nd Street. Once again, as we wind down this morning, the last day to register for the November 3rd election is October 5th. Early voting starts October 19th. That means you go to the polling place. Then the absentee ballots, you can vote for any reason absentee. You need to apply now, and it takes about a week to receive the ballot, and they've got to get it back in by November 3rd. They've got to receive it by November 3rd, so it's a timely situation there. But we've got an individual here. Jon Comstock is your kind of guy, fellow who will be very responsive to the people of this area. So regardless of what political party you ascribe to, you ought to vote for Jon Comstock for State House District 96, and which is primarily the eastern part of Benton County. Let's go to the polls, and let's lend our helping hand here to Jon Comstock. He's your kind of candidate. Jon, appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very much, Colonel. I appreciate you.